I needed to eat, Michael. I didn't have a fallback plan. I didn't go to college. I didn't have rich parents. I didn't have a degree. So um, the same drive that I had when I was knocking on doors to get that next house to paint is the same drive we have today in putting these deals together.
Alvin, welcome to the show today.
Michael, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
So your story starts off you being a handyman, right? And now you have this, couple $100 million in real estate. So it catches up to speed a little bit on how you got from that point in life to where you are now. It's probably a couple of years it took you to do it. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Yeah, Michael. Man, right out of high school, I started painting houses, and I learned how to paint really big houses. And the guy I was working for went out of business after a couple of years, and I needed to eat. And I started knocking on doors. And because I was so good at painting really nice houses, I paint your house for $200 if you bought the paint. And I knocked on a guy's door one day, and his name was James Gonzalez. And he was doing a hotel project in Beaumont, Texas, and he turned me into a big time contractor overnight. And from that situation, I got into doing more real estate, and after doing more real estate, Mike, I got into the mortgage business. The mortgage business led me into more real estate. More real estate led me into volunteering for a guy that had 16,000 units of housing, of apartments in 2008. I fast forwarded a long time. There were a lot of years between that, but I think the biggest breakthrough, Michael, came from supporting somebody else's dream. I wanted to go learn from my friend. He had 16,000 units. He welcomed me in, and he gave me everything that I needed for that season of my life to be where I am today. So it's been really good.
Yeah, mentors are absolutely key.
They are key.
The biggest question normally is how do you get, how do you find them? How do you talk to them? How do you get them to take you under wing? Because it's unusual.
It is.
Someone with 16,000 units say, "Hey, Alvin, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, come on in.
Come on in. Let's take up my valuable time." How did it come about?
I think he really just liked me. He was really that kind of guy with everybody. But I'll tell you, I met him from an appraiser friend of mine, Michael, and I called him, and he met me in Dallas. He flew in town. I didn't know he was on his own plane at that time. This guy walked into the room and almost sucked the air out of the room. He was good looking like you are, and but after that meeting, he told me he would help me because I had just started a nonprofit, and I wanted to go buy all the HUD houses that I could find for $1 and repurpose them. He said, "Alvin, that's cute, but I'll help you." So for 3 weeks, I called him, and he gave me assignments, and I did them. They were wrong, but I did them. And then he quit answering my calls. So I called him every week. I either called, text, or emailed him every week for a year. So literally on the 53rd week, he picked up the phone and said, "Alvin Johnson, I'm so tired of you calling me. If you really want to know what I do, get a suitcase, come up here for 30 days, and I'll show you." So it took a year of me being tenacious, never going away. And so he knew I wanted it really bad.
No kidding. Why do you think he stopped answering your calls?
Busy. And like, what is this? What was I going to do for him? It'd be like some high school kid saying, "Michael, man, I want to help you. Let me shine your shoes, sharpen your pencil." Because that's what I told him. And it's like, "Yeah, okay, dude. Yeah, okay. Sure, I'll help you." And, 3 weeks, 3 good calls, and didn't yield anything. And so I probably would have stopped answering too.
Where does that tenacity come from?
I needed to eat, Michael. I didn't have a fallback plan. I didn't go to college. I didn't have rich parents. I didn't have a degree. So the same drive that I had when I was knocking on doors to get that next house to paint is the same drive we have today in putting these deals together. I love it, and we got to eat. And now we have an opportunity to be responsible for our associates and the people that have come alongside of us and their families. So now it's beyond my hand to mouth. It's what we get to do out in the community and help other people. So,
I mean, you were pretty motivated at the time. I mean, you were obviously, if it took you a year to get this guy to respond to you, you must have done something to eat during this time. And I hear what you're saying, but I think the trouble a lot of times is, sometimes our life ain't so bad, right? We have pretty good jobs that we probably hate, with pretty good health, pretty good family, pretty nice house. And
Yeah.
so if someone is not in that situation, how do they develop that tenacity? Because I mean, my observation is that it's key in almost anything you do in life.
Right.
You need persistence, and tenacity. But you were really driven because you had no other choice, really. But
Correct.
some people do have other choices, but that doesn't mean they can actually really change anything in their lives if they're not tenacious enough. So how can people develop that hunger?
I think, in my opinion, Michael, I think when we figure out what our why is, when that why becomes big enough, it doesn't matter. My why was I did not have a choice. I had to eat. I had to, and I've been in the mortgage business since 1996. So I went through the mortgage. Well, I went through it as a contractor in 89, 90 when I couldn't buy any work. In the late 90s, I was a mortgage lender. So you know what happened then. 2007, 2008, another mortgage situation. And I got tired of that. And I knew that this guy had something for me. So my why was, man, I need to do something big. I really believe God put something big on the inside of me, which is why I wanted to do those HUD houses and do them all across the country. And so what Steve did, he opened my eyes to a greater opportunity to be able to fill a bigger need for more people by doing the same amount of work.
Which
And
was what was that bigger opportunity that impacted more people?
Well, that's going from one single family home to a multifamily development that has 100 units, 200 units. And he said, Alvin, it's just more zeros and more keys. That's all. Same amount of work.
Why were you focused on HUD and specifically? I know he added a 0 or 2 at the end of it, but what attracted you to that specific strategy?
Well, great question. Being in the mortgage business, one of the things that made me really successful, Michael, was I love to educate my clients. So I didn't have clients taking out 2-year arms that were going to adjust when they weren't escrowing their property taxes and all that stuff, waiting on the implosion to happen. So I took that same education piece and wanted to do something really good. I was making a lot of money, and I was literally looking for a way that I could do this with and only pay my fair share of taxes. So one way of accomplishing 3 things was to have a nonprofit that did that acquired the homes, that did the renovations of the homes, that sold the homes, that made the money. And I would just get a salary from that. And I got to accomplish everything that I wanted through the nonprofit and eat. And so what Steve showed me was that, Alvin, we do the exact same thing. Our nonprofit owns 16,000 units of apartments. You can do it with one house that you're going to go get for $1 from HUD, and then you're going to have to do this and blah, 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 and all this work for a $50,000 house when you can go buy a 200 or 300 unit apartment complex, provide affordable housing to people that really need it, and you can do good while doing good. And so that's what we've been able to do, put together win-win situations with our investors, our partners, with city governments, with HUD. We've turned around some really, really bad neighborhoods in Dallas and over in Louisiana. And now we've transitioned from having housing where people had to live, Michael, because the only reason they lived there was that was all they had, to a place where people get to live now, because now it's a place where they have to apply to live here, and more people want to live here, and we don't allow that type of living there. So we're doing that on the affordable side and really making a big impact. And then with the new developments we're doing, we're looking at the sustainability. So I looked at, owning these older apartments, the things that we had to replace every 5, 8, 10 years. And why do we have to replace it? Why is the plumbing bad? Why is there mold in the walls? Why is this happening? And how can we build these bigger, faster, and stronger? And I started doing some homework about 3 or 4 years ago and found a process called structurally insulated panels. It's been around 30 or 40 years. HUD has approved it for agency financing about 2 years ago. And so our journey now will be 20,000 units in 5 years of these high performance buildings made out of structurally insulated panels. And we've got our first 600 units started right now in Princeton, Texas, and then Kaukauna, Wisconsin. So 2 polar different sides of the spectrum, but that's what we're doing. And the sustainability, we think that Well, we're in a massive heat wave right now. Imagine living in an apartment or a home where you knew that your light bill would not change. It doesn't, a refrigerator, this is a cool part. A refrigerator will keep your water at 33 degrees. It doesn't matter if it's in the Sahara Desert or if it's in Alaska, right? That's the same process that our apartments made out of the structurally insulated panels have. Doesn't care where it is, Sahara Desert or Alaska, it will keep your units the same temperature. And so that way we get to do them economically friendly. We could put solar panels on the roof and make them zero energy. So it's really a great benefit for everybody involved.
I've actually seen this before, by the way. So I know what you're talking about, and it's really cool. You step inside and it keeps things pretty cool. I wanted to back up a second. So, you're one of the unique people out there that has discovered how to build something from the dirt. So actually developing something new. And I'm just curious, how did you get educated enough on that particular topic and part in multifamily real estate to get to the point where you are now? Because it seems like there's less potential resources out there to get up to speed on that kind of stuff.
That's a good question, Garrett. Well, I've had a lot of years in real estate. My first 10 years were in construction around painting. So when you know how to paint really well, that means you know how to finish. So you know how I'm not a framer, but I know what it's supposed to look like. So as I got more into real estate, I started having to hire more contractors. So I became a contractor. I'm a licensed GC now in 9 states, and I had to do that to run the construction business. So having the lending experience from the mortgage company, having the construction experience from 30 plus years in real estate and a lot of it in construction, I don't know, I just woke up and said, man, I can't compete with Michael and all these guys that are going out here buying up all the developments. I have to be different. And so the biggest thing, Garrett, is how are we different in a crowded room of people doing the same thing? What makes you stand out? So I knew I wanted to develop that. God put it on my heart. I don't know. I just woke up and said, let's go do it. And then I said, how can we do it differently? And how can we differentiate ourselves from anybody else just building? We want to do the best, be the best, provide the best product. And man, I know that we found it. So it's exciting to get to be a part of a deal like this. I get to be a part of this.
One of the main problems we have in this country, well, we have many main problems, but one of the problems is affordable housing, right?
Right.
It's, you can't build any more of it. Now, you might say, well, shoot, we are actually building more affordable housing. So can you just talk about, if Alvin were president, right, and could have a magic wand to solve affordable housing, how could we begin to do it? What do you see? What are you seeing like specifically that you see working?
Boy, I'll tell you what, Michael, this is going to ruffle some feathers.
Let's
Boy, I'm
ruffle.
going to tell you, we haven't had a president that has the huevos enough to do this. But what we see is I see 18-year-old parents, mothers that get a Section 8 voucher and they throw a party because guess what? You don't have to do nothing else for life. Cut it off after 5 years. You had a baby. Sorry, that's how it was intended, to get you on your feet. Cut that junk off, cut the Medicare off unless it's absolutely necessary. But when you have 18, 19-year-old able-bodied people getting free housing, free Medicare, free all of that, it takes away resources from everybody else. So that's the first thing I would do as president. I thought that's what Ben Carson was going to do because Donald Trump put a black dude in office. I thought he was going to make the black dude the bad guy, and he should have. But I guess he was too freaking smart for that, so he punted. And then, Michael, I don't know, man. We've got these tax credit programs that are good for developers, but I don't know that they're so good for the communities because what the tax credit programs do, they require us to put a different mix of income into a community, which is good. So therefore, you've got people that make $80,000 a year being seen by people that make $30,000 a year going to work. That helps. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Today as president, other than stop the stuff I've already said, I don't know how you can incentivize developers enough to do this anymore. I don't know if there's an incentive big enough to say, hey, let's go do a whole lot more affordable housing, because I just, I don't know. It's a big problem. It really is. Maybe
I
we got to
really,
take the wages up, and then we don't have to worry about affordable housing. Just let more people make more money. How about that part?
Alvin, I actually resonate a ton with what you said about the vouchers. A lot of people know this by now about me, and maybe some don't, but I started buying D class. I had like 300 D class apartments,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all Section 8 vouchers.
Mm-hmm.
And people are basically incentivized to have more kids,
Right,
so that they get more money in general. And it's just a crazy problem. So you got all these kids living in a small apartment, and they're able to, or even a little bit bigger, whatever it is. And then they get the food stamps, and they get everything. And then it's just an unfortunate situation. So that is an interesting take on cutting off the vouchers at a
it
certain
is.
point.
I'll tell you, man. We see residents that have 3 kids, no furniture. So,
Oh
of
yeah.
course,
All
and so of course we're trying to fill those gaps for the kids and beds and schools. So our nonprofit 501c3, we do school supplies, backpacks for kids to go to school, because many of them don't have school supplies. So we fill those needs within the communities every year.
That's great.
One of the things we want to get to is a summer feeding program, because a lot of the kids don't have food to eat during the summer. And the property that we did it at here in Dallas is going through a major renovation, so we were not able to provide that service this summer.
When did you
But-
realize you wanted to have a mission-driven business? Like when did that kind of start, and what made you arrive at that?
I don't know. Again, I just wanted to eat. I put my head down and just went to work. And then I met a guy that had everything I thought I wanted, and he was doing it this way. It appeared to work. And then it's just really ironic that I surrendered myself a long time ago to a higher power, whatever you believe. And when that surrendering happened, I believe that my passion was turned into my purpose. Real estate's my passion. And so now with this purpose, not only do we get to fulfill my passion by taking old junk and making it new by rehabbing old apartments, now we get to build new apartments. And now by this 20,000 unit mission in 5 years, that's going to lead us to having our own structurally insulated panel plant under the flag of our the guys that are delivering the product for us now. And the reason for that, Garrett, is now I can go to the Texas penal system and get some nonviolent offenders and set up some training curriculums and train a lot of individuals to be plumbers, AC guys, plumbers, HVAC, and mechanical contractors, not employees. So everybody that's come alongside us to build these apartments has that same kind of mission. So these guys have curriculum to do that training. So in about a year, we should have our own plant up and running, where we're providing our own trusses and our own panels. And we will have students from the penal system doing this, training them. And that's how we're going to start. We're starting to train now with these 1,000 units. We're going to get started this year. And next year we'll have our own plant going, and it'll help us get to that 20,000 unit target.
I love what you're doing, because you're doing good, but you're also making money at the same time, right?
Absolutely.
Money's going to come from someplace. So what is the business model with these structurally insulated panels? How does it, and the whole HUD thing, like, how does it all fit together?
Great question, Mike. So take HUD out of the picture.
Yep.
This is a traditionally built apartment complex, 200 units, $50 million is my total capital stack. We raised 25% in equity. We've got debt, decent debt now, 7.5%, 8%. We pay a 9 pref from day one on this deal, up through stabilization, and then we when we refinance this thing, we'll hit a 15% hurdle and do that on distribution. We expect about a 26% return. And let me tell you what makes these work with those kind of numbers. You got a traditional apartment complex where the light bills belong to the tenant, correct? In these situations, the only thing our resident pays is one bill. That is the apartments. In that includes your rent, your lights, your water, your cable, your internet, and washer and dryer. Because they're so efficient, our utility bill from our engineer guaranteed not to exceed $540 per year per unit. Utilities, that's lights and water. So in our rent, we're charging $120 for that electric. So think about the money going to the bottom line on the NOI just from the delta between our $35 electric and our $120 charge, just that alone, plus the internet, we're buying it on the curb at $32 a door. We're selling 300 meg fiber internet for $75, cheaper than what you can buy it for AT&T. So now you've got $35 plus $90 just in those two categories, utilities and cable, going straight to the bottom line.
Now, is there an affordable component? In other words, what rent are these people paying? Is this
now these apartments in Princeton, Texas, the rents are $1.95 a foot. So average between the complexes about $1,600, $1,700. Not bad. Now, if this were a truly affordable community where we needed to lower the rents, we could make it a NOAH. So this term NOAH, naturally occurring affordable housing, means that we're making this affordable with no restrictions in place, meaning you don't have to make 30%, 50%, or 80% of the AMI to live here. But what we would do is we would take that utility savings and knock that off the board and just charge the rent charge. And so you can literally, as a developer, play with that to back into rents that are affordable for that market, because we've got that delta with the utilities. And there's no other way to capture that than if you're building with something that is so efficient as this.
Alvin, that's amazing that so it's almost like you've taken kind of, you're finding your niche in different ways in development, from HUD over to this eco-friendly stuff, which again, the first time I stepped inside of somebody that they're building these mini homes with this similar technology, and it's amazing. It's like it's hot outside and it's really cool on the inside. There's no air conditioner running, right? I wanted to pivot real quick because this is interesting about you. You created this brand called Multifamily Monopoly, right?
Yeah.
And you went from somebody that's relatively kind of unknown into rubbing elbows with Grant Cardone and other people. And
Michael
I just
Bryant.
want to, yeah, right. So what made you create that, and just talk about how that's evolved?
Man, I met Grant about 4 years ago now, and he told me, Alvin, man, I love what you're doing. The only reason you don't have what you want and you're not where you want to be is nobody knows who you are or what you do. So we started the spending all this money on social media. The multifamily monopoly thing came about because I love the game Monopoly and we do multifamily. So we put those together. But the education, Garrett, the education platform is what we use multifamily monopoly for, came because for a couple of reasons. I wanted to bring awareness to the community. Yeah, and please hear me. I'm not a black guy, I'm not a white guy, I'm a guy that just happens to be brown. But some people love the fact that because I am this brown color, that I get to open doors for other people. And if I get to be that guy, then hey, I'm glad to be that guy. So I wanted to expose people, and really older people, because most guys 55 years old, they're looking for a couch to go sit on and go fishing or drink beer or something. And now is really when life can really start. So I wanted to be an inspiration to that crowd. I wanted to be an inspiration to the Black community, that anybody could do this. I didn't go to college, so throw all that junk your mom and daddy told you out the window and do you and dream on, dreamer. And then I needed to raise money because these deals take $12 to $15 million for every development. And there's no other way to do it than to let people know who you are and the benefits of what we're doing. It's not just, hey man, come help me make a bunch of money. Yeah, we can make a bunch of money together, but look how we can do it, and we can do good while doing good. So there were several different reasons why, and it's just kind of taken off, and I really want to do something that when I'm not here anymore, that will last beyond me. So these apartments will definitely do that. We've got 2 generations of several families working in our organization. So that's really, really good for me. I love that part. I love to help make other people's dreams come true. So when I see a mother and her daughters working here, or a father and his daughter working with us, and my kids, I mean, that's no better feeling. And Michael has that same experience with his kids working as well. So
Yeah, I love it, man. I love how you're innovating the space. That's cool. I love how you're doing good with that. I think that's cool as well. So how can people connect with you and find out more about what you're doing?
thank you, Michael. Alvin Hope Johnson on all my social platforms, and multifamilymonopoly.com will take you to our nonprofit, which is Hope Housing Foundation, take you to all my personal pages. So alvinhopejohnson.com, either one of those, or alvinhopejohnson.com, Alvin Hope Johnson on all the socials. Real simple.
It's a real pleasure to have you here, Alvin. Thanks so much for being
Michael,
on the
thank
show.
you so much, man. I appreciate your platform. Garrett, thank you for hooking this up.
Good seeing you.
Yes, sir. Talk to you soon.